All right, so hi everyone, Kumar Danatran and Michael Jever.
Hello, I'm Michael Jever.
And we're hoping we get some more, but we'll just get started and the recording will be there. So today we're going to be covering a technique called impact mapping and really how you can maximize your impact from a product management perspective. You're doubled up. I see you're using maybe your phone for audio.
Yeah, I wanted to get out of the phone and use it on the computer. That's easier for me.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. So if you would on your phone or browser, if you would go to menti.com and yeah, go ahead and mute one of them. There you go. And then use that code to get into this session.
Could you say that again, please?
Yeah, you probably need to mute one of your devices because
I have muted one, but just one second. I'm going to reduce the volume of this one. Okay.
All right. So what I said was go to menti.com, go to a browser or your phone. Actually, let me do this. Let me copy this link and stick it in and paste it in here. So just click on that link from your browser or your phone.
Send it.
And you should join the session. Actually, with only 2 people, I don't know if we'll even need to use Menti, but we'll see.
Yeah, we can probably just do it as a discussion, but if you're interested in if you've never used Menti before, it's kind of neat. We use this a lot we have a couple clients who have agile meetups of anywhere between 40 to 140 people typically. So it's a great way to have interaction with a group that's very large that it's hard to have a conversation with, but with just a couple of us. So we can just talk it out or do whatever you want to do, but feel free to follow along and enter that in.
Yeah. All right, let's get going. So 2 options to interact, either a browser or a phone. You put in the code. The code is on top there, 2796577. And you can join us if you wish. But again, there's a couple of you there. Awesome. So you're in the session. Great. So this is kind of a discussion question, and you can either shout out the answer or put it in the Menti. How do you maximize the impact of the products that you create today? So go ahead and put that in the Menti, or you can just shout it out. It's totally up to you. Hi, Paula.
Hi, Kumar. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Hi, Paula.
Hi. Nice to see all of you.
Yes.
Yeah, you're just in time for our first question. So if you go to menti.com or let me just share it again in the chat here. You can just click on the link in the chat. You can respond to this question or just respond with your voice. We're good with that too.
You want to make sure there's sufficient market demand for the product that you're creating.
Right. So you want to understand where the demand is. How do you do that?
Well, it depends on your target audience.
Okay. So there's an element of understanding your customer, right? So you have to understand who they are.
Right.
What else?
Persona mapping, empathy mapping, customer journeys.
Right. So that gets you closer to the customer, gets you closer to understanding what they need, what their pains are, what their gains are.
And then on the other side of this is small batches. Right? Incremental value, getting that small feedback loop.
Yeah. Okay. So putting something out, getting some feedback, and then based on the feedback, adjusting what you create next.
And then shift design to the left, right?
What does that mean? Shifting design to the left. Love it. Sounds great.
Yes. So whatever we can do to pilot or prototype something before we dive deep into the development of it we're going to save a lot of time, and we're going to get real clear about how the customers will like the product. We'll get their feedback. We'll look at navigation. We'll look at UX. That.
Awesome. So it's really getting incremental with your design and your delivery, right? So design,
Yes.
shifting it to the left, getting really incremental, really asking the powerful questions, and to yourself, of course, and that way you realize a bigger impact from the work that you do.
Yeah, I love this part.
Yeah. Kunle, anything to add here from your side?
All of the things that I'm thinking about have been mentioned, centering everything around basically customer centricity and everything. I think it's been mentioned by both Jay and Paula.
Yeah.
I really don't have anything to add.
Okay, no worries. Let's go to the next slide. So this kind of, do you want to take this, Michael?
Sure. So one thing we're talking about today is really kind of honing in on this activity of impact mapping and the whole concept of it, what it is, the mindset behind it, where it fits into some of those elements that Paula was just describing was on the journey of a product idea through its cycle into becoming something valuable and usable and used by a community, right? So the idea here is it's impact mapping is really, well, I'll ask this first. Does anyone attending, have you ever used impact mapping before? Is anyone here familiar with impact mapping? Feel free to unmute. Yes, no.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, it's actually what we're finding is that, and this is one of the reasons we wanted to have this topic, is it's probably one of the least known elements or techniques that we've seen folks using to try to take an idea from a vision or a concept to tie strategy and missions to tactical activity. It's the area that people do different things in, but they've never really heard of or seen impact mapping specifically as a technique. And we found it's a really helpful, simple technique. What we really like about it is that A, it's lightweight, B, very collaborative. You can get all different types of folks involved in this to really help out. When we have our product mindset course that we use, so we actually do impact mapping in that. And what we find is it's great to get a group of people together to really start to drive outcome-driven planning. It helps you, the visual aspect of it and the collaborative aspect of it makes it quick, but you can get a lot of ahas out of this. And what's funny is you can find out a lot of things about what your possibilities are, what your options are in order to be able to develop a product from an intent or from a mission or vision standpoint. But it's also really good because it helps tie together strategy and tactical activity very, very tightly. It creates, as Kumar likes to talk about it, the steel thread across the value stream. It really helps to connect an area which we've seen traditionally is an area that has the least amount of connective tissue and the least amount of crosstalk and collaboration and visibility. It creates a lot of visibility across strategic and tactical parts of an organization as well. Anything else you want to add to that, Kumar?
Yeah, just that impact mapping was created by a guy named Gojo Adzik. I'm not sure if I'm saying the name right, but he's got a book by the same title, Impact Mapping, and it's really a fantastic technique and something that we use in our course. Yeah, that's really it. And it starts with, if you look at the picture here, it starts with the goal. It starts with, what's the goal? What's the that you're trying to achieve? And then from that, who are the actors or personas that you're looking to, to Ajay's point, you need to understand your customer, your target audience. Well, there may be one or many actors that represent the target audience. And then what's the behavior that you're trying to impact them to do or change? And then finally, what's the deliverable that you would create to support the behavior? So all of these things are sort of created in this mind map. You know, it allows a large group of people or a small group of people to come together and visualize this, as you said, Mike. It's a really fantastic technique. We're actually going to try to do it here with the three of you. All right, so we like to again, as I mentioned, we use impact mapping in our course, and really when you sort of zoom out and look at impact mapping, it kind of maps to our product journey loop. This is our sort of creation, if you will, and the way we see product development. You know, it starts with defining the why. Why is it that you're going to be building this product? And what's the reason? What's the vision? You know, who are the people that this product or service is being targeted to, and what's the outcome that you're looking to gain, both from a customer standpoint and a business standpoint. And then we start to gain an idea of the impact that the product will create, you know, for our customers. So we think it's very much synonymous with impact mapping. Right? Anything to add to this, Mike?
No, I think on this, I like this diagram because it kind of overlays the two concepts. It's an accumulative type thing, right? It's we've actually got a couple groups that we're going to do some impact mapping with here, a couple of clients that we've got going into the next couple of weeks. Working with a group in Chicago coming up in 2 weeks, where they're taking a product at the very infancy part of its life cycle, and really conceptualizing all the different types of possibilities that can be out there, but trying to hone in on something that'll be their initial focus, and being able to talk about and understand and really align between the group that's making the product and their initial beta customers and beta testers, align around what is valuable and what they should start on first, because they're going to come up with a lot of different goals. They already have a lot of different goals. They're going to come up with a lot of different personas and a lot of different types of impacts that they can have with a lot of different types of deliverables. And what we wanted to be able to do is hone that down to Paula's point and make it more iterative and in the way that it goes out. And I like this diagram because it ties together the different elements of where we get the information that we populate the impact map with. You can do impact mapping without having this thing like the product journey loop. But what's nice about the product journey loop is it kind of makes it procedural. You can kind of make it, you can make it into a process where you can take step A, step B, step C, and it's going to add up to being able to do step D very, very easily, because you've done and had the conversations. You've come to alignment on each of those elements as you've gone through the process. And then when you get to the point where you're building and putting out an impact map, we're going to do our example today from scratch. So it's a little harder, but you get this opportunity then to be able to put all that together. And now impact mapping becomes actually very easy to do when you've done this work in this order, from what we've seen. So Ajay, you have a question?
Yes. So both of these seem to tell you who, what, but neither one is covering the when. Is that out of scope for?
Yeah, when this could feed your when. Your when would come kind of after impact mapping. For example, we have folks that will take that impact map with all the data that they've gathered, and now they can start to put together a roadmap. So they can start to figure out which comes first, which comes second, and they start to figure out their potential whens. And then the next step after that would be to take that and break it down into story mapping. So you could actually break it out into what are my iterations going to look like? How am I going to chew this thing up or break it down? So yeah, that when would come after this. It would be the next step after impact mapping typically.
Yeah, and then really impact mapping feeds into a roadmap anyway. It feeds into an outcome-based roadmap. So the roadmap would give you the initial. Again, you want to focus on the biggest, the most impactful deliverables, and you would sort of lay that out, in a roadmap.
Yeah, by doing it this way too, you're much more likely to do the most valuable thing first. right? Regardless of the complexity and everything else, you'll still take that into consideration, obviously, when you get down to looking at road mapping and essentially into story mapping. You might want to pivot those around, but you have alignment and consensus at each step, so that by the time you get to the actionable things and the when and the how, it becomes much, those conversations go much quicker because there's less to align around and there's less unknowns that you're dealing with.
How do you measure for either one of these, first slide or the second slide? There's no place for value measurement, or not measurement, value, assigning a value to the goal.
Well, there actually is, when you actually go through the steps in the project product journey loop. When you're looking at outcomes, there's some exercises you do in there to look at customer impact and business outcome. So when you see our slides today, imagine in the place we've used a simplified map for our 1 hour, because we only have 1 hour. So what we're looking at is high level impacts. What you're doing usually in the outcomes section, there's an exercise where you go in and you look at both business impact and customer outcome, and you actually measure those.
Would inherently include the value as well. It's not just
Correct.
what the customer is, what the
Well, in some cases,
outcome of the customer. Okay.
in some cases, you may not have a business, a direct business outcome. You may just be going after customer impact. So in a, as an example, I'll use Costco, right? And their rotisserie chicken. The rotisserie chicken has no business, well, it has a business impact, but not direct business impact. In fact, they lose money on every chicken they sell, right? And so Costco isn't going for the rotisserie chicken being a profit center. They're using it as a way to draw people into their stores, because they know when they come in and they buy a chicken, they're going to buy something else or many other things, right? And so it really depends. So the impact that they're looking for is, hey, we want to change behavior. We want people to come into our stores. That's the impact we're looking for. How can we do that? Let's offer them a really great rotisserie chicken at a really good price. And we're not going to raise the price forever. So it's still $5 for a rotisserie chicken.
In fact, in impact mapping, you actually write down some of the negative impacts in some of those cases too. One business impact of that Costco example is we lose a little bit of money every time we sell one directly on that product or that SKU. However, what we found through our research is that we have higher tickets and overall greater revenue when we have that versus not having it, right? So you can list those business impacts out as detailed or as high level as you want, considering which pass you were going through on the journey loop. But certainly, imagine that when we go through and do these exercises in the course, we actually have people fill out measurable leading and lagging indicators around both business impact and customer outcome for the examples that they do in the course for the workshop.
And in real life, this plays out as well, because the impact map sort of stops at the deliverable, but then there's more to it. Of course, you need to deliver what you think is going to have an impact, and that's when we go into this realized cycle of the loop. And whether you're using Scrum or Kanban or waterfall, it doesn't matter. Hopefully you're doing it in short iterations, to Paula's point, and you're delivering something, learning from that something you deliver. You're taking measurements to see, hey, are we on the right track? Are we actually getting the impact that we thought we would get, both from a customer and a business standpoint? And if not, we're going back through traversing this loop again, just to revisit, hey, what was our goal? Who are we targeting here? We're not receiving the impact that we thought. Do we need to pivot at this point or conduct some more experiments as we go through this?
Now, optimally, you would actually have high level, at least high level, or maybe even more detailed level ideas of what those measurables would be. In the outcome section, you're figuring that out. In options, you're figuring that out. You're putting it into your roadmap for certain levels of things. So when you get to measure, you already kind of know what your measurables are that you're shooting for, to your point. You would have that knowledge. It's better, you get better, and you get better outcomes. I think you get higher velocity with quality when you're defining, getting some of those metrics earlier on when you're talking about it. So, but there's
Yeah,
definitely
Paula.
spots in the process to make that happen. So,
Right, and Paul has put some really nice comments about pirate metrics and things like that, which are awesome. The pirate metrics. We will probably do another coaches corner on just that because they're very valuable. But in a nutshell, imagine a pirate. Imagine Mike, Coach Mike here with a patch on his eye and a parrot on his shoulder, and he's saying "Arr!" Right, the pirate metrics, and what it spells is, AARRR. It's an acronym for acquisition. That's the first step in acquiring people into your product space or your service. Activation, you're getting them to do something, to buy your chicken or to click on a link and pay the money, right, for the subscription. To join our community, that's the activation. Kunle, you've attended this meetup, and I think you came in through an email that we sent to you. We want you to activate you and have you join our community. So that would be activation. The first R is retention, which is, we want to provide value to all of you so that you stay in the community. And then there's referral. We want Jay and Kunle and Paula to refer your friends to join our community. And finally, we hope all of these things will result in an impact on our revenue, right? That you will buy something from us or buy something from Costco or buy something from, every company goes through this cycle. These 5 sort of metrics, pirate metrics that define how successful they are with their products. And impact mapping is a great way to kind of think about what those impacts are.
yep. Good question. Very good question. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was applying that to your Costco example.
Yes.
So for new customers, you've got a big sale going on, that's acquisition. You got a big sales going on chicken legs, and that's retention, because your customers are coming back, they're going to buy something else. And it could even be referral. Hey, I got this great sale on chicken legs just yesterday at Costco. Want to come and join with me? So I can see it impacting those 3 pirate measures by getting more people in the store.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you can see in this visual, you could break that impact out into different types of impacts, right?
Yeah.
With measurables on those impacts, the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go through this animation here, right? So why are we doing something? That's your goal, right? So that's kind of okay. So let's say the goal is we want to improve same store sales at Costco by 5%. That's the goal. And okay, great. Who are the actors? Well, that would be, again, everyone that comes into Costco is potentially would belong to some subset, right? Some persona. You've got the families, the mom coming in with her kids in tow, right, in the cart, and then you got other actors, the
Small business owner.
Small business owners, because it caters to business people and so on and so forth. And so for each of those actors, you may want to impact them in some way, shape, or form. How are we going to impact their behavior so that they buy something, so that they do something, right? And then finally, what are the product services that we can put in front of them that would impact their behavior in such a way that they help us with our goal?
Yep.
That's the basis of this. And then it's kind of follows this flow, right? The why, the who, the how, the what. How will we impact their behavior? Why are we doing this? Who are we doing it for? How will we impact the behavior? And what do we need to create in order for that to happen? So the what's become your deliverables. Does this resonate, ring a bell? Because you might have used something similar.
Yeah. Has anyone used anything like this before?
Different names.
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, there's different ways to achieve this. This is one way, and it's a way that we like, but there are definitely different ways that folks have done this over the past.
Yeah. All right, so let's keep moving. So impact mapping kind of talks about goals, impacts, and deliverables, right? And this is more strategic in nature, right? As you start to traverse down this chart here, you get to, sort of features, right? Features and stories and things like that. This is on the right side of the loop. This is kind of what you deliver, and you learn from it, and you measure it, and it feeds back into the left side of our product journey loop, where we assess those measurements to see if we're on the right track and so on. And way below that, even further down below on this chart, you've got what the team creates, whether it's software or something else, right? It's the acceptance criteria, what that makes something true. So it makes something accepted by your product owners or product managers and so on. And it could even include examples, right? I don't know if you've heard of spec by example. So you create a specification by including an example of what you're expecting the behavior to be. And that's a great way to have your developers and your, again, if it's software, it's developers. If it's something else, it could be, maybe you're designing a course and you have course designers putting your course together. In that case, your examples might be examples of other course material that you want it to look like, right? So
or if you have a restaurant, it's something like another food group that you do today or something like that, or you're trying to, hey, we want shakes, but we have ice cream now. So, use that as an example or something. So you can do it for services too.
Yep, absolutely. Now, this works really well. And so we're focusing really up here on impact mapping. And, as an example, like say the goal was to increase peak sales. Well, maybe one of the actors is a mobile user, that's the persona that you're capturing, someone that's on the go, they have their phone, and so on. What you want them to do is buy more online. They're a mobile user, right? So you want them to buy more online. Well, the only way you can do that, say for instance, you don't have a mobile website, you don't have a phone optimized website, right? So maybe the deliverable is to create something that is for that mobile user, that person on the go, right? If we expand this even further, right, say you have another actor, it's a call center, and you can see this mobile user, right? So there's maybe some different impacts: buy more online, buy without a call center. Maybe the deliverable there is to allow them to purchase through text, just to be able to text their order in. That's a very simplistic example, of course, but you can kind of get the idea of how impact mapping might work. Again, this is almost like a mind map where you and your product people are thinking about the different options and thinking about the impacts that you're trying to create. And the important one in this slide is this option that's on the right. Maybe you want to do something with your call center. You want them to sell faster. You want them to close more sales, right? And the deliverable isn't anything that is related to a software feature or an enhancement to the systems that they use. It's more behavioral. It's like instituting a new process for them to stop cross-selling. If they just focus on the one thing, then maybe they can close that sale and go on to the next thing, and they'll be able to sell more items. So this is more of an experiment for them to conduct that doesn't involve any kind of change to the software. Did I miss anything here, Mike?
No, I don't think so. I think, and again, the focus, it being very familiar in design to a mind map, the focus really being on the impact, right? The fact that we're trying to have a certain type of impact for a certain group of people, and that there are deliverables that we can deliver, that you can be inclusive of more than just things that you code or build or whatever. It may be the elimination or the removing or the optimizing of something that's already out there as the deliverable, because that's the impact. We think that that's what's going to have the impact versus other things. So
yeah,
I think it's important to include those types of things, because then your mind map, I think, becomes more rich, and your options become more rich. Your backlog becomes, there's more things to try and to have available that you can pick from. And then as you get more data, you can figure out what you want to go to. So.
All right, we're gonna try. Do you have any questions about these, either of these slides? Before we do something fun? All right, let's go do something fun then. So for this, you're gonna need your phone. So we don't have the little code. Do you remember the code, Mike?
It'll be on the next slide,
It'll
actually.
be on the
If you're-
next slide. Okay.
If you're in the Menti, yeah, we can, let me copy it again on the chat. So
Okay, so you'll need to go to Menti for this because I think it'll work better. So just imagine that we're all in the pizza business and we've opened a store and we've called it Pop-Up Pepe's Pizza and Sushi. And we want to increase our year-over-year sales by 10%. Right? We just want to increase our sales. That's our goal. And so the 5 of us are part of a product group. And what we're going to do is brainstorm a few things, like who are our actors? What are the impacts that we're trying to, how are we going to get them to buy more, basically buy more pizza or sushi? What a combination, right? Why isn't there a pizza and sushi place?
I don't know. I think there should be. I think there should be. Absolutely. Two great things that you never ever see together. Maybe. Well, maybe it's some, I don't know. I haven't seen it in my city, so.
Right. All right, so let's get started. So if you're in the Menti, that's great. All right, so this is your question. Come up with some actors or personas for Papa Pepe's Pizza and Sushi.
We're going to create a word cloud on these just as ideas. If you only have 1 or 2, go ahead and just hit submit when you're done. You don't have to put in 3, but you get 3 options.
So what you want to do is in the Menti, just add them into your.
I think Kumar, if you've got it up, I'm going to participate too, so we get a few more options up in the.
All right, I'll do it too.
Yeah, so we get a bunch of us in there.
Two, 7, 9, 6, 5, 7, 7. Who are the actors?
Just to make sure understood, is the goal increasing just revenue or increasing profitability?
Just revenue.
Just revenue. Yep. For this example.
Okay.
We purposely use the simplified version of this just for exercise purposes, but yes, you'd probably have a bunch of different goals, right?
Well, because I mean, you could increase revenue if you have these loss leaders like Costco example, but it's not going to necessarily increase your profitability. So just want to make sure we're measuring the.
Yeah, you're right, because your impacts, your measurables on those impacts, they would all change based on that goal changing. I like this.
All right.
Professionals, busy working parents.
It's like young professionals, busy working parents are getting a little bit more love. All right, so young professionals, busy working parents, and then the rest may only have 1 vote each.
You got a store manager too. Interesting.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, it's a persona, right? It might be somebody that has an impact on the ability to increase it.
All right,
Vendors.
Next question. So thinking about the actors that you came up with, the next question is, what behavior changes would you want to see that would, create an impact?
Yep. And in this case, you can pick any of those actors that we saw, pick any of the ones that you created. We would normally be mind mapping this out. But in this exercise, we're just using Menti instead. So there's a couple coming through. So see people order larger tickets, maybe buy more often. Something we could do that could create people to come by the store more often or purchase from us more days a week. Adding more add-on sales. If we can get more people to buy, I know with a lot of the apps that I've seen before, you see people that like, as you're finishing your order, they suggest, hey, this side would go great with your thing, or would you like to add a drink with it or whatever, right? Some way to kind of get that going. Why sushi? I like that. That's a very good one, actually. I like that, right? Like Kumar talked about that option of saying, hey, well, maybe we stop cross-selling for the call center. We just kind of focus in on what our strength is. Hey, if it's Papa Pepe's Pizza, was Papa Pepe originally a sushi guy or was he originally a pizza guy? And, you know, are we trying to mix the metaphor here and trying to do both at the same time? Is that really actually hurting us to what we do? So I like that question around why sushi. You might even say that might translate into like, well, let's not sell sushi or let's
sell pizza.
or let's open a separate brand or something like that for sushi or a separate store, and we'll do 2 different stores or something like that. So interesting. Cheaper evening orders, delivery service. I like that. Increased online orders. Yep. Family meals. That's cool. Yeah, because someone had the busy mom and the families. I like that. Family meals, like packages. Referrals for friends, like a loyalty card or referral program. That's cool. I like that. So these are all very good. Cheaper
Yeah.
evening orders. That's cool.
That could even be somebody on the school board who says, hey, maybe we can call this company Papa and come up with a deal to raise money for our sports clubs.
Marcos does that. My son, when he was in grade school, they had a certain night, and Marcos went around to all the schools, and different school systems were on different nights. So everybody in his school system, it was like Tuesday nights. So it was middle of the week. And if you ordered a pizza from Marcos on that night and you checked off your school, there would be money going to your school. And every night, every week, we were getting pizza for, the family for that night. So yeah.
Yeah, these are all great. These definitely would have an impact, right? Any or all of these would have an impact.
And they're measurable. These are all measurable.
All measurable.
I like them because you could very easily put metrics around these.
Yeah. All right. So now the next question, what you have to think about is for these impacts, what would the deliverables do? What would you do? What would you do to support these impacts? What would you actually create? Right. So
Can you move the slide forward?
Yeah. There we
There we
go.
go.
What will you create to drive each actor to achieve their goal toward the desired impact? So just think about the impacts that you created. And add that in there.
Subscription deals, school district partners, referral program. Yep. Partners with DoorDash.
These are all great.
Yep. Menu catering to market. I like that. Frequent order card. School or sport incentives. Yeah. For going out for like basketball or selling or doing stuff like that.
I like to create awareness. I don't know who put that in. What would you do there? Whoever put that in.
I did. I mean, I don't know if anyone. I don't know how the algorithm counts it or something, but I I felt like there's a lot of things that are needed to have been analyzed before we get to this point. Like what has been done in the past.
Yeah.
And this could only be achieved by analyzing, like empirical data and everything. So, but I know we're just currently operating within the scope of the impact mapping tool. But
This is no, I think this is good because think about it. This is your first pass. Remember, because that you think of the product journey loop, you're being iterative, right? So you're going through and you're doing it multiple times. If you've gone through the loop a bunch of times, you've probably built up some nice empirical data. You've done some analysis. You've got some information. You've got customer feedback coming in from earlier iterations of delivery and how well things went. But early on, you might not have that. And if you're going into a brand new market with a brand new, really innovative thing, your early deliverables probably should incorporate things like this, right? Because a lot of people kind of just assume, or they skip it over, or they go, and then there's a lot of money and time invested, and you come out with a very kind of a flat result, right? And not nearly hitting your expectations. So I think those are good things to put in there, especially if, imagine this is the first time you're going through that loop and it's an industry that you're new to, or you're done. Maybe you could figure out if there's industry analysis that secret ingredient is putting sushi and pizza together, which nobody's doing, and it's going to be amazing. Or you figure out and go, nobody wants any of this. You're not doing sushi pizzas or pizza sushi. So why are we putting these together, right? So yeah, I think that would be a really good deliverable for an early pass, or really anything that you don't have a lot of data on. You don't already have a lot of data or customer user feedback. So
Yeah,
I think those are all very good deliverables.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if Kunle, you put this one as well, industry
comparison analysis or something. I didn't have enough text.
Yeah, it does kind of limit you on the word cloud. That's true.
And I
or
think
analyzing empirical data. These are all really good, right? So presumably this company, Papa Pepe's Pizza and Sushi, has been around for a little while. They're trying to increase their sales. But it would be good to see, okay, what else is out there? What are other people doing? And then, creating awareness to me sounds like your acquisition campaigns, acquiring new customers to come into your stores, right? Or using a mobile app, if that's one of the deliverables that are prioritized, right? It's the feeding the funnel, the R funnel, right? And acquiring people to use your products or services. So
You know what,
hopefully
Kunle, in the 80s and 90s, I worked for a furniture company, obviously pre-internet days and all that other stuff. So you had TV, radio, and print. Those were your market, and maybe mailers and things like that. One of the things that the company I worked for used to do, the gentleman that owned it was a Xerox employee for a lot of years, and they had very, very good sales, very high quality, deep, rich sales training in Xerox over the 60s and 70s. So he had this concept of shopping everyone else in our store. So you would come into a store and there would be all the advertisements laid out for all of the competitors around town, everything. And everyone for that week would get those ads, and they would go look them up, and they would have in their repertoire a way to talk about what others were offering that week, that day, versus what we're offering today. And it was highly, highly effective. And it was our non-internet version way of shopping the competition, going to Lowe's and scanning it and looking at Amazon and saying, yeah, is the price good or what's it? This is how we did it. So I think that's a really good thing to put down, thinking about it in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. These
I
are
wanted to
great.
talk about competitive differentiator. So I've been in organizations as a product manager where I saw the group going down a tunnel, and they didn't really understand what was their core differentiator, what made them so unique from the competition. And I could see that they were starting to get into things that were really mature, like there were mature products for certain things. I'm like, please don't do that. What makes our product special? And so when we focused on that, that provided significant results as compared to trying to do, I see this a lot, trying to be all things to all people, instead of What is the core? What makes us special? Let's focus on that.
Yeah, maybe it's pizza or maybe it's sushi, but maybe not both.
Right. I'm suspicious as a consumer. Do I really want to get pizza
Pizza and sushi?
sushi
From a place that
vice
makes
versa?
sushi, right? Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, well, and that data is really critical. The example I gave you with the furniture store, we had the data that showed that when you were shopping for durable goods for furniture, that people shopped 1.5 places before they would stop shopping and purchase, because it took a lot of energy. It was tiring. It was consuming. It was an emotional purchase. It was a big purchase. And you had buyer's remorse a lot of times when you purchase it afterwards, because it is a big ticket item, and then you'd be out of the market for 2 to 10 years. So
Yeah.
we knew how valuable it was when someone walked through the door that you were not going to get another, because we said V-backs get hit by trains. The minute they walk out that door, that customer's being hit, they are not coming back. The likelihood is they're not coming back. So it was really critical to get an opportunity to have your best foot forward and to really know what you were doing to help somebody. You had to still provide value because you wouldn't get referrals or these other things, right? But
Right.
it was good to have that data, because it definitely changed how successful we were, because we knew how customers were going to act and react in our space.
Excellent. Excellent.
So
I wanted to quickly go back to this slide. And so for all those actors and impacts and deliverables that you all came up with, those deliverables, if you imagine that we have a big mind map, where you've sort of, we have used a mind map kind of a tool to visualize all of the information that's currently in Menti. You'd have a bunch of deliverables, and at this point, we would be prioritizing those deliverables to say, okay, what's going to give us the most impact amongst the 20, 30 or so deliverables that we've imagined, right? And from those deliverables, we're going to start thinking about creating that roadmap, right? So what's our roadmap look like? And from the roadmap, it's going to be, again, outcome focused, because we've got already the impacts that we're trying to engineer, the measurements that we're hoping to sort of engineer from these deliverables that we're creating. And it's going to feed into those features and those stories and things in time. But we have the beginnings of the when, to Jay's point earlier. So I just wanted to point this out, because I don't think we have this slide again at the end, just to give you kind of a picture of where this all fits in.
Yep.
And certainly we're not going to do all those deliverables, but we're going to do the ones that we think will have the most impact.
What's important to remember, we did this really fast in this session from scratch, right? Imagine that you're doing impact mapping after having good conversations around all understanding the different whys, which would be the goals, right? Understanding all the different who's, and then doing some of that outcome-based study together with metrics and potential and goals, metrics that you're shooting for, with leading and lagging indicators and different stuff for both business and for customers and consumers, or clients and consumers. So it becomes, now you've got this very easy way to go through and start building a roadmap and a prioritization mechanism, because there's so much alignment and knowledge already with the group that those things happen much smoother than they happen without doing those things first.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're saying that the impact and the inputs to a impact mapping session would be the defined goals, clear understanding of the shared vision, the why, the identification of metrics, and competitive analysis.
Those things will definitely help to have more fruitful and more valuable impact mapping sessions with more alignment and less uncertainty around the things that you've gathered and agreed upon. So what it does is it creates velocity with quality on your product from the front end before you've even started work on anything. And it builds a richer, usually more fruitful backlog to start something from scratch without having to get bogged down in a lot of other things. You can do it pretty rapidly. teams that get good at this, again,
you.
it's like everything else. Teams that get good at this over time, it becomes part of their culture and it becomes very second nature.
Yeah. Yes, Ajay?
So when you say this builds velocity with quality up front, I guess help me understand that, because that doesn't quite compute from a practical day-to-day delivery perspective, right? You're not, until you started actual sprints and program increments, you're not really producing any velocity. And until you've had a chance to look at the actual work, you don't know your quality.
Do you want to take that, Kumar, or you want me to take it?
I can start. I mean, the idea isn't that you do impact mapping and you're done. It feeds into another cycle, right? So if I go back to that slide from the product journey loop as a way to illustrate what we're talking about here. Give me a second. A lot of slides to go back on. Oh, I think I went too far. Here we go. So if you think about this as being sort of a framework, right? So the impact mapping that we're doing is mostly on the left side of this loop, right? And you have your goals, you've defined your who's, your actors, if you will. You've defined the outcomes both from a customer and a business standpoint, using impact mapping again as a way to sort of visualize the relationships between what you're trying to achieve and how you're going to achieve it, right? Then what you do is you start to deliver in small incremental cycles, and you're going to get better at that over time. So the first cycle might just be a bunch of prototypes that you're testing out the ideas that you have come up with. Okay, a mobile app. What was that? Say you create a mobile app for Papa Pepe's Pizza and Sushi, and you want to test it out. Well, you wouldn't just go build a mobile app and just go launch it on your consumer base. You probably do some market research, do some testing to see what kind of a format would work best. What's out there now that works for pizza places and sushi places that you can emulate. And then you would go, again, the impact of the features that come out of that deliverable, which is create a mobile website, would all point to this cycle of iteration and incremental development from prototype to delivery, right? And those cycles may take some time. It takes weeks, may take months before you have your first product out there. But the product that you put out there, because it's been created in this manner, it's been prioritized because the group feels a mobile website, an app, a mobile app is the best way to reach the target audience, busy working young professionals and working parents. Then that's the hypothesis that you're trying to prove or disprove. And once you have it out there, and you may not even decide, you may decide not to build it, because based on the prototypes, based on the user research, you're like, yeah, you know what? Our customers don't really want to order online. They just want to come in the store. They want the store experience. But through the cycle, velocity with quality means that you can test these ideas out quickly with good enough quality to be able to get a result, and either persevere and continue iterating through the design, or pivot and go to another deliverable, another impactful deliverable.
So,
And I love, Kumar and Michael, how you build into your training what I think a lot of product groups miss, which is quality starts with clearly identifying the value to your customer. What's the good of developing a widget that does not bring customer value, even if it's top-notch quality? So I love the approach you take in your training and in this workshop, focusing, like expanding the idea of quality to begin with really understanding the value.
Yeah, but I don't know if I answered Jay's question fully, though.
no, it does help understand. So by negating this product, again, I was taking it literally, right? So when Michael said velocity and quality, I'm stuck in my left brain permanently, so I'm taking it literally. And I think, Kumar, what you were saying is by avoiding to do this mobile app, or by realizing that, hey, we're going to abandon this mobile app, that may actually, right, by not doing this work, we may actually be increasing velocity somewhere else, or by
Yes.
we're abandoning this. So I'm not sure how to translate that into words, but kind of sort of understand what you're saying.
You're going in the right direction. Yeah, I have a feeling, I think I know where you're going, is this idea of velocity with quality is not just on one deliverable and one iteration. It's on the life cycle of a product. It's a continuous thing, right? If you think about it in more of kind of a lean term, all of the things we do to get to impact mapping are all of the things that need to be done to do good work. To do good work sustainably, continuously, with good velocity, in a very proactive and responsive way, in an environment where change is happening constantly. We just don't have time to miss. We don't have time to guess, to hope. It's like you want to eliminate as many of the unknowns and get to alignment and consistency. We've seen in just working with clients, if you can bring people together, if you can get alignment and consensus with the business and the delivery sides of anything, everything works better. And everything, all the numbers go up, all the positive measurements go up, all the negative measurements go down. Google proved it with their what was that project? Not Pegasus. I can't remember, when they were trying to build the perfect team.
Oh, Aristotle
project, right? When they said they spent $1.8 million. They had 200 teams over 2 years. And the only thing that they could come down to, that they could measure accurately, was that teams performed better when they got along. Didn't matter the skill sets. It didn't matter any of this other stuff. And the other part of this is when you're talking about new product delivery, in marketplaces and market share, anything you can do to remove unknowns, anything you do to build alignment, anything you can do to get consensus with the group of a diverse group of people that have a lot of different views on something, the more likely, statistically, you can show that it's more likely that you're going to have positive outcomes, and you're going to achieve those positive outcomes with less waste. To what you said, Ajay, that's kind of like, if you remove the waste, you increase velocity, and you also increase quality, because now you're not doing rework, right? Yeah. So those things all contribute. So it's really about the setup. And then once you've gone through the loop a few times, it's continually reinforcing. Or, yeah, that worked, great, we'll keep it. Nope, that didn't work, throw it out, right? So remember, you're going through that loop multiple times. So you're doing a little bit different things when you're doing it, but that's the concept. I think you've got it, what you were describing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, because a lot of these questions are from actually getting your hands dirty, that, right, your teams are going to ask, your clients are going to ask, especially all the engineering folks would ask questions like that.
No, and those are good questions. Those are valid questions. And
Yes,
the thing to keep in mind is that, this picture here might imply a very rigid sort of linear path to creating something. What it doesn't include it doesn't have to be code. It could be just, instead of code here at the bottom, these could be experiments. These could be user research. It could be interviews with potential user groups that represent
a beta group.
Actor.
Could be a beta group or an alpha group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the idea, though, is that you're baking in experimentation. You're lowering risk by doing the appropriate design work up front. And the design work up front, what I mean by that is that you're employing those design thinking techniques to validate your hypothesis and start delivering towards those impacts, right? And again, it could be a negative delivery. You might decide or discover that this isn't going to work. Let's go with another deliverable. All right, with that, we're going to end this talk. I hope you got some value from it. Kunle, I'm going to send you a link to join our community. Hope you do that. And please leave us some feedback. Should have gotten a little feedback form at the conclusion of this. If you haven't gotten it yet, you will get it.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys. Have a good week.
Thank you.
Did you all find this valuable?
Yeah, it's good to have those drilled into your brain from time to time, right? Just to take a step away from daily delivery to, okay, next time we launch a large project, we'll have to think about this before we actually jump in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember working as a delivery team member. Whenever I was able to understand the why, I asked better questions
Right.
as a developer and as a team member, because I had more insightful questions that were more relevant, which ended up allowing me to produce better stuff faster with fewer iterations. And it's that kind of concept that we're going to on a global scale across a product or portfolio of products for your group. So
Yeah, I was brought into managing this whole project or projects after they're already started, so I didn't have
it's
much
tough. Yeah.
control about, are we doing the right thing?
Yeah.
Next one, it'll definitely help.
There you go.
Cool.
All
All
right.
right, thanks, gentlemen.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Yeah. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.